Voting articles will be decided by Australian ballot, taking place at the town office from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Please remember that if you haven't voted on the budget or the Australian article, ballot articles, they're at the town office across the parking lot. And the voting there closes at 7 p.m. I'll make sure to remind you guys if we're getting close to that deadline. Hopefully, we'll be done before then. If we could stand, face the flag and stand in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. United States of America. Republic. Stand on the nation under God. Thank you. Now, if I could get you all too, please, we're going to bow our head. We'll have a moment of silence and reflection, and then I will read the invocation. We are gathered together in civil assembly. We gather as a community in the oldest sense of the word. We gather to come together and try to make decisions about what is right and what is wrong. Let us advocate for our positions, but not at the expense of others. Let us remember that there is an immense gap between saying, I am right, and saying, I believe I am right. And that our neighbors with whom we disagree are good people with hopes and dreams as true and as high as ours. Let us always remember that in the end, caring for each other in this community is of far greater importance than any difference we may have. Thank you, guys. We do have, I put some notes on the chairs. You guys can look at some notes on how the meeting will be run. We'll start with Article 1, to elect a moderator to preside at the meeting. First, before I get any further, can anybody hear me okay? No? Okay. We'll start with Article 1, to elect a moderator to preside at the town meeting of the town whose term of office shall be for the ensuing year. Are there any nominations? John Schmelzer.
I nominate Steve Hill.
Is there a second?
Are there any other nominations for moderator? Seeing none, all in favor of Steve, vote aye. Aye. Steve?
I noticed you didn't ask for any nays. Article 2, to elect the following offices: 2 select board members for 1-year term, 1 select board member for 3-year term, 1 trustee of public money for 1-year term, 1 delinquent tax collector for 1-year term, 1 cemetery commissioner for a 3-year term, 1 second constable for a 1-year term, 2 library trustees for a 1-year term, and 1 library trustee for a 3-year term. Voting is done by Australian ballot. Once again, it's across the parking lot in the town office. Polls close at 7 o'clock. Make sure you get there if you haven't done it. Article 3, shall the town of Moretown set the town warrant date on real property to be November 1st, 2025, and that such taxes be paid to the town treasurer in 1 installment due, payable, and postmarked by November 1st, 2025 without discount, and that interest be charged at the maximum allowed by statute not to exceed 1 1/2% per month. Is there a motion? I'm going to remind you, I remember a lot of people. I should have said this a minute ago, but please state your name because a lot of times I remember names and not faces, or the other way around. So, motion? Clarence Wood. Second? Steve Robbins. Shall the town of Moretown set the warrant date on real property to be November 1st, 2025, and that such taxes be paid to the town treasurer in 1 installment due, payable, and postmarked by November 1st, 2025 without discount, and that interest be charged at the maximum allowed by statute not to exceed 1 1/2% per month. Is there any discussion? Yes, your name.
Georgia O'Brien.
Georgia O'Brien. This is not going to reach all the way out there.
I was involved in the flood last summer on the corner of Cobb Hill and Route 100. And in the process of trying to get back on my feet after my house was almost totally destroyed, one was told that I could ask for an arbitration as long as I paid my taxes on time, and that there would be some kind of a meeting for those that had property damage that would like to discuss having their land reappraised or whatever it is they do in the arbitration. I'm afraid I don't know all of it, but I would like to have something said tonight about, am I going to have to pay all of my taxes as they set now by the 1st of this November? Or am I going to be able to have some kind of a meeting to discuss maybe my property isn't quite as worth what they have it on the books right now?
This should reach. Sure.
So what you're talking about, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're talking about is an abatement. So you need to apply for an abatement for 2025 for this year's tax bill that's due on November 1st. So
There was a number of us that live in that general vicinity that have bookkeepers in your office and for what happened.
so those were for,
We have to redo that?
so what you put in for was for the 2024 taxes. So if you want to apply for the 2025, then you'll need to put in another one for the 2025. The abatement board has not yet met yet, and they're planning on meeting in April. So you will be getting notified soon as to when the 2024 abatements will be happening.
So they still will make a decision on,
They still will make a decision, yes.
and I have to fill out another form for this year.
For this year, for 2025, yes.
And I can get that in your office.
You can, or you can get it online, or I can mail it to you, whichever is easier for you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any more discussion on the article, Article 3? Seeing none, shall the town of Moretown set the tax warrant date on real property to be November 1st, 2025, and that such taxes be paid to the town treasurer in one installment due, payable, and postmarked by November 1st, 2025, without discount, and that interest be charged at the maximum allowed by statute, not to exceed 1.5% per month. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Article 4, shall the voters of the town of Moretown vote to change the delinquent tax penalty levied to a graduated commission schedule pursuant to 32 VSA section 1674-3 to 4% for the first 30 days following the tax due date and 8% thereafter. Is there a motion? Karen Horn, the second. Steve Sharp. It's been moved and seconded. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown vote to change the delinquent tax penalty levied to a graduated commission pursuant to 32 VSA section 1674-3 to 4% for the first 30 days following the tax due date and 8% thereafter? Is there any discussion? Yes, state your name, please.
So Claire, so just so I'm understanding correctly, if someone doesn't pay their taxes on time, they're being charged interest, 1.5% per month. Who is the recipient of that interest, the town?
It's actually 1% interest.
We can up to 1.5.
Yep, yep. So the town receives 1% interest. The penalty is 4% for the first month, and the town delinquent tax collector, that's his fee. So then if it's not paid within 30 days, so by December 1st, then another 4% is then charged. So it's a total of 8% that will go to the delinquent tax collector. That is the max by statute that can be charged in a penalty.
Plus that 1%.
Plus the 1%. So every month after that, after, November 2nd, 1% is always charged to the taxpayer, and that all goes to the town.
And then 4% for the month of November, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then an additional 8% in the month of December, an additional 4%
Additional 4, so a total of 8% total.
December, and then
That's it.
and then there's no more penalty.
Correct.
Just interest after that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any more discussion?
Unfortunately, no, this is the appropriate way of, I wondered at some point if we could discuss why they have to get us up with a maximum 8%. And they have to be borrow money from us and actually wanted the money that bad. So I wonder if at some point we consider not charging the maximum allowed at some point, whether this is the form in which to discuss that.
Your question is regarding the amount of the penalty, which is 4% for the first month and then 8% after that.
Yes, because Cheryl described
Can you
it,
just
we're
clarify?
now charging the maximum of 8% at a certain point. And I'm wondering at what forum we can discuss whether we have to charge the maximum of 8%.
This is the time to do it right now. It can be voted on right now.
And so we consider not charging the 8%.
Yes, it can be voted on right now, here.
In other words, make a motion to charge that.
Yes, so it used to always be 8%. And then, 5 or 6 years ago, the voters here at town meeting decided to try to give the taxpayers a break and only charge half of it. And then they're like, okay, so hopefully they can pay up again by December 1st so they don't get that other 4%. But if they don't get that other 4%, then they have to pay it. So just history, just so you know, it's always been straight up 8% November 2nd. So I just wanted to give you the history, that's all.
I make a motion now.
Now is the time, if you would like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that when taxes are due after 30 days, that 6% be charged.
So the motion would be, let me make sure it's clear, that to change the wording to say 4% for the first 30 days following the tax due date and 6% thereafter. Yeah, no, that's what it is. The total is that. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Get your name?
Melanie Cheryl.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to amend the motion to read, shall the voters of the town of Moretown vote to change the delinquent tax penalty levied to a graduated commission schedule pursuant to 32 VSA section 1674-3 to 4% for the first 30 days following the tax due date and 6% thereafter. Discussion on the amendment. Mary Larson.
Point of clarification, so Carolyn, you said that penalty, not the interest, but that penalty goes straight to the delinquent tax collector, like payment for services?
Just to be clear, that the money does go directly to the delinquent tax collector. The question was, where is the money going, for clarification, and the answer is that it's going to the delinquent tax collector that's where he gets his money for the job.
That's how he collects his paycheck. We're collecting his money. That's often have to. He does not get anything else other than that. So our delinquent tax collector gets paid through penalties. He does not get paid through any other hourly wage, bonuses, nothing. This is his pay. So I understand what you're saying as far as dropping it, but it's so you know that's how Craig gets paid.
More discussion, yes, Chris.
How much is total needed in 2024? Is it in the book somewhere?
Yes, it is. If you look at page 6. On the first one,
Page 6.
page 6. Our interest that we are collecting is $4,318.
Maybe I can walk to you. I can walk to you.
I'm gonna have to pull up my computer for that answer.
Charlene is getting the computer out so she could look up the answer to the question. While she's doing that, we have a problem we haven't seen in the Moretown town meeting in just a couple years, and I'm really happy to see this. And let me just tell people, there are empty chairs available. There's one right here, and then there's 3, and there's 1, and there's 3, 2. There's a row of 4. Come on in, sit down. This is pretty remarkable, folks. I'm really happy to see this kind of turnout.
Ask another question while we're waiting, or?
Yeah. Steve's going to ask a question while Sherilyn's getting that up.
Can you clarify thereafter? I know there was an explanation, but I didn't quite understand what thereafter.
Can you just do that so Sherilyn doesn't have to?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, we should.
8% thereafter.
So it's a total of 8%.
But thereafter means for how long? Until they pay?
It's a state statute, you can never go over 8%. So once you get the 8%, you cannot charge any more penalty.
Okay.
So I'm the moderator, so I'm not really supposed to answer the question, but it's not compounded interest. It's an 8% on top of whatever they owe.
Okay.
And that's the fee. That fee goes to the tax collector. It's not something it's not a,
Thereafter.
right, it's not compounded. Yeah.
This may be a silly question, but does the tax collector go to people's houses? Does he make phone calls?
Is Craig here? Craig, the question was, do you go to people's houses and do you make phone calls and how do you contact people?
Many words that I can walk there. Most of it is done USPS texting or email.
So did you hear that? USPS texting and email.
And to clarify, on page 30 is my report regarding delinquent balances as of 12/31/2024.
The report from the delinquent tax collector is on page 30 regarding last year's.
So at the bottom of the page, it shows, at the bottom of the page, it shows the outstanding balance for both 2023 and 2024. If those two numbers were added up, multiplied by 8%, even though it hasn't been collected, that would be the fee the collector would receive. Well, 1 year's a year ago, and then this year was 3 months ago. Does that help?
Sherlyn, what's your status?
I'm still trying to look it up.
I know, I'm just. Tom's always trying to take my job from me.
No, I'm not.
Becky?
So, Chris, you get paid, like, if the taxes remain uncollected, if they remain delinquent, do you still get paid?
No.
You only get paid when the taxes are collected by.
Jeff Hawk. If the taxes are so delinquent that the property goes to tax sale, does that fee come out of the tax sale, or do you get money on the tax sale? No. It goes to tax sale if you wash it.
Well, no. I'll get the fee that was collected at the tax sales on the delinquent balance.
Right. So you would, at the time of tax sale, you would get your 6 or 8%.
Correct. And the town will get
Yep.
the taxpayer will get the fee
Geez, go bigger, go home.
in addition to the balance.
Did everybody hear that? The question was about tax sales, and the answer, I believe, was that he would get the fee on the tax sale that was collected at the tax sale.
And I do have the figure. $3,196 is what he took in last year.
Any more debate or questions regarding the amendment to the article? Yes, Melanie.
Question, do we have a sense why people don't pay their taxes? And also, is it effective to give them penalties to get them to pay their taxes?
Did you guys hear the question?
You know, honestly, I could write a book about why people don't pay their taxes. I would say the majority, they just miss it, and they pay it pretty quickly once they realize they missed it. Probably the second most common reason is escrow, where the bank collects it, but they don't pay it. In that case, the bank pays the interest and the penalty. It's not the property owner's responsibility to do what the bank was supposed to do. After that, it's circumstances that are personal to each person about whatever is going on in their life. And some people are in denial that there is taxes due on property that you own. They're due every year. Everybody knows that, but they choose not to pay.
Any more discussion on the amendment to the article? Steve?
I guess my only thought would be if by reducing the percentage, whether we create a disincentive for the tax collector or a future tax collector. So, you know, given the figure that was just shared, $3,000 something, that's not going to make or break the bank or well, I don't know that it's that much of a difference. I know it makes a difference. Every amount makes a difference for the taxpayer. So I guess my concern is maybe a time comes when Craig's done the next person hopefully comes in and there's enough incentive to do the work, that somebody steps in. And so that's just a thought.
Yeah, I'm going to say one more procedure thing because we have so many people here, and that's good, Steve. But I think we need to start standing up to speak because everybody's got to be able to hear what you say. If you want to repeat it, that's fine. But otherwise, I'm just going to say going forward, let's make sure people are standing up to speak. Charlene.
I would just like to say that I hear you. I know times are tough right now, but I've worked with Craig for the last 17 years now, and I have never seen anyone put as much dedication into collecting these taxes so that we all don't have to pay for it. It stinks when people can't pay their taxes, but there are other routes that people could be going and using and utilizing. And I just want to say that Craig, you've done an amazing job, and I personally, I couldn't support having his 8% or 4 or whatever it is because of the time that he does put into this, and he works with me very closely on this. So I just want to put that out there.
Any more discussion on the amendment to the article? Okay, I'm going to read the amendment. The motion is to amend the article to read, shall the voters of the town of Moretown vote to change the delinquent tax penalty levied to a graduated commission scheduled pursuant to 32 VSA section 1674-3 to 4% for the first 30 days following the tax due date and 6% thereafter. Just to be perfectly clear, what you're voting on is to amend this. We will still have to vote on the article either as it's amended or not. All in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay? Nay. The nays appear to have it. The nays do have it. The amendment fails. Now, do we have any more discussion on the article as it was written? Yes.
Corey, so I guess I know that we changed to this model, which I think is a nice gesture to the taxpayer to, oops, you forgot and count on so we got the 4%, so the 8%. Just curious why we have to blow it on it every year.
It's state statute.
It gives us something fun to talk about. Any more discussion on the article? Seeing none, shall the voters of the town of Moretown vote to change the delinquent tax penalty levied to a graduated commission scheduled pursuant to 32 VSA section 1674-3 to 4% for the first 30 days following the tax due date and 8% thereafter? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Is Dara still in the room? We talked ahead of time about waiting till later. Are you okay with waiting, or do you in a rush to get out of here? I would like to, ideally, we would go through all of the articles through Article 7, which is where people might make a decision on how they're going to vote before they go across the parking lot. Is that okay? All right. Thank you. Article 5, shall the voters of the town of Moretown vote the sum of $1,859,294.49 for the support of the town for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025 for any operating expenses and other obligations, voting to be by Australian ballot, which is across the parking lot in the town office. Polls close at 7 o'clock. We do not actually vote on this, so we don't need a motion. We'll moderate discussion. If you guys have questions for the select board regarding the budget, now is a good time for that. Clarence. I noticed that Tom ran out of the room as soon as that. Clarence, you have a question?
Yeah, I think the town budget is too low.
Okay. Did any... Clarence says that the town budget is too low. If you want to phrase it as a question, Clarence, I can ask them to answer it for you.
Well, the activity and the responsibility of the town, particularly with the increase of the population over the last few years, has put a lot of stress on the workers. And I'm talking about the town clerk and all the activity we normally have, and the activity on the road, and the cost factor involved. And when you look at the budget, and you think about all the things that are going on, and the activity, you can see there's stress on the budget. Everyone's holding it down.
Any of you guys want? Do you guys want to address that at all?
I guess I'll address it.
Take this, please.
Robin Campbell, Select Board member. We tried to hold the budget level this year because we know there was a lot of increases last year, and we struggled with those. We did give all of the town employees performance bonuses last year that were substantial, and we thought were quite fair. So we held the line this year at the 5% cost of living raise, and really that is the majority of any increases that were in the budget besides the fire truck and the new town vehicle.
Clarence, any more questions? Okay. Any other questions for the select board? Mary?
I have a question with, I know we had a lot of road expenses, and it was saying in the report that we've gotten $750,000 from FEMA, but we're expecting much more. If we don't get that for any reason, does that mean that next year's budget is going to have to reflect the cost of what happened in 2023 and 2024 that we did not get reimbursed for?
I'm sorry, I knew it was my boss. What was the question, Mary?
If we don't get the FEMA money that we're expecting, does that mean that next year's budget is going to have to reflect all the expenses that we had for road repair due to the floods?
Yes.
Next year, Clarence might get his wish.
Yeah, and I apologize for running out there. Was there any other discussion about FEMA or anything that goes on? We got plenty of information if you want.
Select board report also pointed out a lot of the stuff.
Any more questions or discussion regarding the budget? Now's your opportunity to ask these questions, guys.
Dan Zucker. I have a question about, it's actually about the delinquent tax collector, but it is pertaining to this article. Throughout your budget, you have stipends, salaries, and expenses for contractors. And I'm curious why the delinquent tax collector isn't paid a salary, is there a statute that defines that position as having to be a percentage of the delinquent taxes? Because if we could decouple those, then the penalty would really be a discussion. And again, I'm not talking about the previous article, but that article would be a discussion about affordability versus whether or not the gentleman deserves, so to speak, the money that he receives. Because I would be all in favor of seeing that as a line item in the town budget rather than part of that previous one.
Do you know the answer to the question?
I think it's statute. It's also statute.
Do you know the answer, Frank?
That's how it's.
Tom says that they can look into it, but they believe that it's statute. And I would guess that it's probably related to that statute that's mentioned, 1674-3. in there, but that they could look into it.
So Callie here, Callie is the assistant treasurer, or pardon me, treasurer. She got moved up over here in Berlin, and so she's the delinquent tax collector over there, and it's a different fee. So I guess we can change that because it's different over in their town. So I'm sure that it's not by statute, so we can change it.
That's your charter, their charter though, so it may be different.
All right, so we'll look into it.
Any more discussion? Becky?
I appreciate all the work that went into putting together the budget for us to review. And, I served on the Finance Review Committee for a few years here and have my own little business and do our household books. I find it so confusing. I know that municipal accounting is different than home and business accounting, but it's very difficult for me to track, like, what's an expense and what's revenue and what revenue is built. Like, it's difficult for people who aren't familiar to really discern what's happening in the budget. So if there's a way to adjust that to make it a little bit more friendly to people who are interested but not as well informed as all of you, I would be so grateful.
Any more discussion on the budget? All right, giving you plenty of time. All right, we'll move on to Article 6. Shall the town of Moretown become a 50% member of the Mad River Valley Recreation District, accept the district agreement as amended, and appropriate $20,000 as its assessed share of the district's January 1st through December 31st, 2026 budget? The Mad River Valley Recreation District agreement as amended is posted on the town website at moretownvt.org and available for viewing at the Moretown Town Office and polling location, which is across the parking lot. Voting is by Australian ballot. Polls close at 7 o'clock. Any questions or discussions on that?
I'm curious why Moretown would be 50%. Oh, sorry. I'm curious why Moretown would be 50%.
Say your name. They don't know who you are.
I'm Liza King. And I'm standing up. And I'm curious why Moretown would be 50% of the rec district.
Clark, do you want to answer some questions from this?
So the Mad River Valley Rec District asked me to be a spokesperson for this effort, which I support. Yeah, Moretown has been paying a relatively small amount compared to the other valley towns. They pay $40,000. They're asking Moretown to pay $20,000, and that would amount to roughly about half a cent on the tax rate, just so that people would have a number to associate with that. Right now, Moretown participates in about 20% of the participants in rec district activities are Moretown kids. So there's Moretown has a pretty big representation in terms of all the different leagues and such that the rec district supports. Participation in the rec district, if we approve this particular measure, would also allow someone from Moretown to be on the rec district board. It would also mean that Moretown would be eligible for grants that the rec district administers every year. And grants could be fairly wide-ranging, from recreation to possibly somewhat related to conservation as well. The information packet, such as it is here, and I'll leave them up here on the table if people want to take a closer look later on. And I think are there still some copies at the town office, Sherilyn? Oh, they're over here. Okay, so they're over on the table as well. Okay, so I'll just add this to that as well. There's always a concern about Moretown getting looped into valley efforts when many people don't consider themselves necessarily valley residents. If you live over in Cobb Hill or over on the other side of Moretown Mountain, Herringbrook, Jonesbrook, connections to the valley are perhaps sometimes somewhat tenuous at best. However, there's, based on the numbers of people that have participated in rec district activities, the rec district feels that it would be a fair share for
Moretown to pay the $20,000, which is half of what Facein, Warren, and Waitsfield pay, and it also allows Moretown to be have a voice on that particular board, as well as in any discussions and concerns that come before it, and also as an advocate for projects that might come up in Moretown that could be eligible for rec district grants. There's more specific content in this than I'm sharing right now, but I'd be happy to try to do my best to answer them if people have any questions or comments. Do you have any follow-up? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Otherwise, you get more questions.
I just wanted to say that I misunderstood 50%.
Of the regular
Membership, yeah. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments regarding Article 6, the Moretown Rec, not the Mad River Rec? Yes.
Kate Liptek. I am curious though, as a 50% member on the board, we have half the representation of the other valley towns. Even though we're potentially accessible to grants, we only have half the vote. I'm curious if down the road we become a full member?
Oh, there would be a full member.
Right, but one Moretown representative compared to two from the other towns.
That's a good question. I'm embarrassed to say I'm not sure how to answer. If the content here said there's 2 members for each town, then yes, then Moretown would have, not as full a say as the other towns would have.
Can you guys hear the answer clearly? Go ahead.
I would just be curious if in the future if that's a part of the conversation so that there's equal voice, considering Moretown does send a significant amount of kids and families to the rec department and pay registration fees to do so.
If someone wants to make an amendment to be a full member in terms of paying $40,000 at some point, I suppose you could probably do that. And for one person, rep from Moretown, if we approve the measure, you can certainly try to forward that particular idea. But at this point, I don't see any movement in that direction.
Any more questions or discussion on Article 6 regarding the Mad River Valley Rec? Yeah, Robin.
Robin Campbell. I know that they had to amend their charter or whatever it was to allow us. Do we know that happened?
Right, yeah. Right. Yeah, they had to go through some changes within the board in order to, I think it's I wouldn't describe this as sort of the rec district throwing Moretown a bone. I think that they generally, I think, understand that Moretown is a quasi-valley town, where we have other watersheds that we exist in other than the Mad River Valley. So I think that that's part of the thinking is that they want Moretown as involved as they can be, given the fact that there are connections that Moretown folks have with other communities that are not strictly or at all in the Mad River Valley.
Any more discussion for Article 6? Okay. Move on to Article 7. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the sum of $6,250 to support the work of the Waterbury Area Senior Center, voting to be Australian ballot? Any discussion on that? Yes, Clarence. Oh, so this one, Clarence, is actually Australian ballot, so we don't need a motion. It's across the parking lot in the town office. For clarification for people, is anything that's over $5,000, we have to vote on Australian ballot. That's a town policy that we voted on in 1992. And since the senior center has increased the amount of their request, it is no longer voted on the floor. It's voted Australian ballot. But we can discuss it if anybody has questions or they want to discuss what there's going on with the senior center. Is there anybody here representing them that wants to speak? Or all right. right, apparently not. We have completed all of the Australian ballot articles. I would remind people the voting's across the parking lot. Voting ends at 7 o'clock. Do not forget to go vote if you haven't done that already. If there's no objection, Dara is here. She is one of our representatives, and she would like to speak. She would like to give you guys some information about what's going on in Montpelier. Seeing no objection, Dara?
Hello, everyone. What a full house. This is amazing. I think this has got Facein beat. I had lunch there. A lot of friendly faces. And before I start on the legislative update, one of the fun things that happens in the State House is we get to honor special people in our community. And the Secretary of State reaches out and asks, is there a municipal official who could use some recognition? So I actually have a Vermont Public Service Award with me that I would like to present to Tom Martin. You're welcome. We know how hard our select board works and how many difficult events we've had to cope with as we have a lot of storms and unfortunate crises coming our way. And that's kind of what we're facing in the State House too. So we have all of the challenges of reforming our education system, having our healthcare system be in meltdown mode, and now we have major federal headwinds to face in terms of funding and support for our state. So we have gotten some good work. We've gotten off to a good start, a little slower than normal, a lot of new people, and waited a while to get the actual language from the governor on the education proposal, which I'm not going to spend much time on because I don't have a lot of time. And Representative White and I have organized with our senators an education forum. It's going to be at Harwood on March 24th at 6 p.m. And that's going to be a wonderful opportunity. We'll have made some more progress before then, and it will be a great opportunity to hear from everyone on how you're feeling about what's being proposed, questions that you have, priorities that you want to share with us. But the big picture basically is figuring out how to take care of our what appears to be an unsustainable system right now, and an incomplete system, and a broken funding formula. So there's going to be the governance work that needs to happen, the systematic approach. How do we deal with all of these old buildings? How do we use our resources the best we can? How do we share resources between schools? How do we land on the right number of districts? And all of that needs to be done very carefully and in coordination with our education professionals and in close communication with our towns. So that's what I'll say on that front. The other big issue for our community, of course, is healthcare as we face the loss of a primary care clinic right here, even though we're told that investing in primary care is one of the most cost-effective things we can do, and that having access to primary care is so important. So why is this happening to us? And I'm hearing that in the other towns, and I just wanted to share that, we have a very fragile primary care system. The profit margins are bad, and right now, our clinic was part of the UVM Health Network, which is a private entity that we cannot tell them what to do. We do have some regulation of our hospitals through the Green Mountain Care Board, and they're trying to get a handle on hospital spending, to try to control our health insurance rates, which are another whole story, another big cost driver for our schools, very hard on our employers, hard on all of us who have high deductibles to pay. So they're trying, those regulators are trying to do that balancing act of making sure that we have quality, sustainable health care in the state at a price we can afford. And it's a tough balance, just like education. Quality everywhere for everyone at a price we can afford. It's a tall order. And so we are facing some losses as a result and consolidations. And we hope that our community can be a bright spot in terms of either attracting a new type of practice or leveraging community partners on the ground in new ways to deliver care to our community members. So I feel like these are really big crises, but they're also opportunities for us to be more creative and to make use of the whole constellation of care that we really do have, but that isn't well coordinated. So there's hope, and there's going to be a lot of work on that. And then the other big one for me is the climate action situation, because we are hearing from the governor in this setting of affordability crisis that we're living in. He's asking the question, his administration, can we afford to be as aggressive as we are currently in meeting our climate goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions? So there is going to be a lot of discussion of that in the committee that I serve on, which is the Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee. And we will be looking at that proposal really carefully before, making any changes to the big pieces of legislation that we've been really keeping in front and center for the last 20 years. We don't really want to fall back on that. So, we do have some real headwinds with the loss of a lot of funding that we were going to use to help people transition and to buy down the cost, right? As your heating system is about to go, you want to be able to make the right choice, get maybe a clean option that might save you some money. That's going to be a little harder to do now. So that's kind of where we're at with that. That will be a major part of our work later this session. So I would love to just take some questions before I bolt off to Warren. Does anyone have any pressing questions? I'm coming back for dinner because that's going to be fun. Becky.
The whole healthcare situation is confusing to me because I was in a situation not too long ago where I thought I needed to find a primary care provider, and I called all the practices in the area, and the shortest waiting list I think was 18 months, and they were up from there. I have been a patient at Mad River Family Health, and so I called to kind of ask the same question, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, you're actually a patient here. So I was able to get in with them, but with closing the clinic and moving to Waterbury, I don't understand how you consolidate a system that's already overloaded with needs.
That's a great question, and it's not easy to see how they're going to really save much money in doing it. But what we're hearing is it's a consolidation that they think they'll be able to just move that staff over there, accommodate all these patients, even though there's waiting lists on both ends. And basically, we're just being served up, poor access and not enough care, even though it's such critical care. And it has a lot to do with the workforce shortages that they face just like everywhere. Healthcare is having a lot of issues with people aging out of the workforce, and we're having a hard time attracting people to the field. So we're trying to do the best we can with not enough. And I guess in some ways we're lucky here in Moretown because we do live close to Waterbury. And unlike Warren and some of the places down 100, it's a lot harder. So yeah, more to come on that. It's discouraging. I agree. Any other? Well, thank you. Oh, sure.
Repeat when the education forum.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And by the way, so this is a write-up here that Rep. White and I prepared. It's got some updates on a number of things. It's right on that table over there, and it includes the information about the meeting. The education forum is March 24th. It's a Monday evening, 6 p.m. at Harwood. And Rep. White had to travel. She didn't realize how late our meeting was going to be, so sends her regards to Moretown. And that's it. Thank you all. See you later.
Okay, we are on to Article 8. I just want to clarify for people what we've done this year that's a little different to try to make things a little more efficient with these little articles is we've combined several. The sum total of each article is approximately $4,000. We are limited. We cannot go over $5,000 in any one article. I will read through the entire thing. It will give you an opportunity. You can amend if you choose, or you can strike out as you choose the different organizations that we're giving the money to. I'm happy. I will help you through the process, and hopefully this is going to make things go a little bit more efficiently. If there's any questions of procedure before I go. All right, that sounds good. Article 8. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $400 to help support the work of Capstone Community Action Incorporated, formerly known as Central Vermont Community Action Incorporated; $500 to help support the work of Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired; $1,400 to help support the work of Central Vermont Council on Aging Incorporated; $350 to help support the work of the Washington County Diversion Program; $150 to help support the work of Elevate Youth Services; $1,200 to help support the work of Central Vermont Adult Basic Education; $750 to Mad River Valley Television to help fund the cost to record and make Moretown public meetings available for viewing on MRV TV's TV channels and website. Is there a motion? Who said that? You got that, Jeff? And second from Steve Sharp. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $400 to help support the work of Capstone Community Action Incorporated, formerly known as Central Vermont Community Action Council Incorporated; $500 to help support the work of Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired; $1,400 to help support the work of Central Vermont Council on Aging Incorporated; $350 to help support the work of the Washington County Diversion Program; $150 to help support the work of Elevate Youth Services; $1,200 to help support the work of Central Vermont Adult Basic Education; $750 to Mad River Valley Television to help fund the cost to record and make Moretown public meetings available for viewing on MRV TV's TV channels and website. Any discussion on these line items for the article? In the back, John.
I haven't for a couple of years, but they do an amazing amount of stuff. They do weatherization, all kinds of stuff. You see their trucks all over the place. The other thing I did, I was a Vermont car coach. So to Capstone, we would vet our people and give them a course on personal finance, 4-hour course. And they had to have a place to live, and they had to have some kind of job. And then, and only then, we give them a car, usually in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $5,000. And that's where I came in. I had to go under that thing and make sure it was worth $3,000 or $4,000. But they do a great job. A lot of people may not know this. Everything.
Thank you. Behind you, Mary Lou.
Melanie Sheroff. I actually work for Capstone Community Action. I'm an infant toddler teacher, and I take care of babies and toddlers. Their parents desperately need a place for their children to go. The children desperately need that care, and I'm very concerned with the possibility of federal funding cuts. So I wish we would get more to Capstone. They do a lot of different programs.
So just to be clear on the way this works, it is possible if you want to make an amendment. Mary, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, Mary Gorson, I echo what the other two speakers have said, and I'd like to make an amendment to increase to $1,000.
Which you have to specify which article.
Yes, they do desperately needed work.
I would actually say
Take us over the 4,000.
we are allowed to go up to 5,000. There's a question of being germane, and the amount that was warned is $400, and more than doubling the amount would not be considered germane. That's a ruling of the moderator, so that would basically, that's my ruling. It's something that you can contest, but I would say that you would not really be able to do more than it's questionable what germane means, but I would say probably not more than doubling any of these really small ones, and anything that's $1,000, you couldn't make it $2,000. Okay. Thank you. So the sum of the articles. The sum of the articles is $4,750. So we cannot increase the total sum for these articles more than $250.
Then I amend.
No.
I'll move to amend it.
So Mary would like to amend the article to change the wording for the Capstone Community Action Incorporated to $650. Is there a second for that? Sorry? Your name again? Dave Stable. Sorry? We're on 8.
She was
Oh, okay. You're doing the math for me. Just double check that. I should have had all this ready.
Yeah, you were correct.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, I hear you, Robin.
Steve.
Oh, there you go.
Looks like one of the childcare people's looking for, he's carrying a baby around, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, is there a child care person looking for a parent? Is that? There was. Okay, if she comes in, let me know. Slap me. Okay, so the motion is moved and seconded to change the amount of the Capstone Community Action Incorporated to $650. So it would. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Yeah, Jeff.
Comment. I love the word combined these. We're not voting on 20 different things at the end of town meeting, but maybe in the future we need like $1,000 grace so we have the option.
You want to speak to that? Yeah. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose. No, the wording is over $5,000.
Right.
So this would make it 5,000. Yes.
Pat Hickey, how are the initial amounts determined? Was that a request from Capstone, or was that what the town?
I think that's a request from Capstone.
So that's what they're asking, and we're just trying to.
Yes.
Yes, Melanie.
Saying that we're at Capstone's in a different situation now, especially under the Head Start, early Head Start division, and they're under the chopping block of the federal government right now. They need a lot more, I'm sure.
Any more discussion on the amendment? John?
So we have, I don't know the additional board we have there. Anybody have a desire or how that works once the chiefs goes out?
So we can't go over $5,000. So if we make this 250 more, then we could only lower the other ones or keep them the same, but we could not go above that cap. Any more discussion on the amendment? I'm going to abbreviate a little bit here. The amendment is to change the first line of the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $650 to help support the work of Capstone Community Action Incorporated, formerly known as Central Vermont Community Action Incorporated. All in favor of the motion to amend indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it, and the ayes do have it. The article is amended. Is there any more discussion on the article of these items? Corey.
I was wondering if anyone was here from Central, what is it, basic adult education? I didn't compare it to past years, but I wasn't sure if this was the amount that has been requested in the past. $1,200.
Is there anyone here from Central Vermont Adult Basic Education that can talk about the request and how it compares to previous years? Apparently it's the same as last year in the book. What pages? What pages? All of them. All of them are in the. No. There's a. Page 22 and 23 has a list of the breakouts of what we gave last year.
Steve, I think it's important to note that it's really $4,999. So you can't
spend.
That needs to be $249.
Okay. There's some debate. I'm willing to go with $4,999, which means that we cannot make the amendment $250. I think if you read it carefully, it says over $5,000, but that's okay.
Any $5,000 or more without
So we're going to say, if there's no objection, we're going to just change that amendment to being an extra $249, which would make it $649. So seeing no objective, we're going to just say that we amended it to be $649 instead of $650. Any more discussion on the articles? Yes, Karen.
Karen Sharpwolf, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate all the work that goes into supporting all these organizations, and that if you want to support these organizations, you can find their websites. I wanted to speak about the Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. They've really been a lifesaver for my mom, who's legally blind. They come out to your house, they help you with your computer, they help you with reading, they help you with all kinds of stuff. So if you're somebody that is experiencing visual impairment, or you know somebody who is, I think you should reach out to them and they can help make your life a lot easier.
Any more discussion on the articles for Article 8? Seeing none, we'll vote on the article as amended. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $649 to help the work of Capstone Community Action Incorporated, formerly known as Central Vermont Community Action Council Incorporated; $500 to help support the work of Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired; $1,400 to help support the work of Central Vermont Council on Aging Incorporated; $350 to help support the work of the Washington County Diversion Program; $150 to help support the work of Elevate Youth Services; $1,200 to help support the work of Central Vermont Adult Basic Education, $750 to Man River Valley Television to help fund the cost to record and make Moretown public meetings available for viewing on MRV TV's TV channels and website. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Article 9. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $3,750 to help support the work of Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice, $300 to help support the work of Good Beginnings of Central Vermont, $500 to help support the work of Family Center of Washington County, $400 to help support the work of Prevent Child Abuse Vermont. Is there a motion? B. Lynch, seconded Mary Larson. It's been moved and seconded. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $3,750 to help support the work of Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice, $300 to help support the work of Good Beginnings of Central Vermont, $500 to help support the work of Family Center of Washington County, $400 to help support the work of Prevent Child Abuse Vermont. Is there discussion on these? John.
Tori asked me to speak to this, and I have a bunch of paperwork, but I think the bottom line is we want you to know that it's guided by their mission statement. This is fair for all Central Vermonters, regardless of a person's ability to pay, their geographic remoteness, is a big deal up here, or the complexity of their needs. HHH embraces new technology and collaborates with other local providers to ensure that Central Vermont care needs are met. And then, if anyone is interested, I do have 2 or 3 pages that explain their mission. This is on maybe a personal note. I think quite a few of us here know people who live alone, doesn't matter how old they are, and they're out there on the road up in the hills. And I know these people show up at their house. I don't care, they have all-wheel drive, and then they do an amazing amount of nursing work. So they do a great job, and that's why it's a little bit high, 3,000, but they do a lot of good work.
Any more discussion on the articles for Article 9? Seeing none, shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $3,750 to help support the work of Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice, $300 to help support the work of Good Beginnings of Central Vermont, $500 to help support the work of Family Center of Washington County, $400 to help support the work of Prevent Child Abuse Vermont. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Article 10. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $500 to help support the work of Circle, formerly the Battered Women's Services Shelter, $700 to help support the work of People's Health and Wellness Clinic, $300 to help support the work of Mosaic, $1,100 to help support the work of Montpelier Senior Activity Center, $100 to help support the work of Green Up Vermont, $1,200 to help support Washington County Mental Health, $1,000 to help support the Children's Room. Is there a motion? Eliza. Second?
Second, Hazard.
It's been moved and seconded. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $500 to help support the work of Circle, formerly the Battered Women's Services and Shelter, $700 to help support the work of People's Health and Wellness Clinic, $300 to support the work of Mosaic, $1,100 to help support the work of Montpelier Senior Activity Center, $100 to help support the work of Green Up Vermont, $1,200 to help support Washington County Mental Health, $1,000 to help support the Children's Room. Any discussion? Yes, V.
What is Mosaic?
Does anybody answer that question in the back? Everybody hear that? They provide protection and shelter for survivors of sexual assault.
That was, it's formerly known as the Sexual Assault Crisis Team. They just changed their name.
It's on page 23. Any more discussion? Mary?
I just wanted to say, because Moretown pays to be a member of the Montpelier Senior Activity Center, we get a great discount on all of their classes, and they have a huge range of classes, both Zoom and in person. And it's like half price or something, so take advantage. And you don't, yeah, I think you have to be over 50, so yeah, over 50. So even me.
Any more discussion? Johnny Summer would still like to speak. If there's no objection, I'd like to, he's a longtime resident, I'd like to give him permission to speak anytime he chooses anytime he's recognized. Johnny?
Thank you for the permission. I'll turn around. I'd like to suggest we increase the donation of appropriation to the circle, which does sterling work. Circle producing money. Unfortunately, there's only room for another $99 this year. 99 cents. And unfortunately, this way of speeding up our meeting was done in such a way that there's no room to change any of these appropriations, or very little. In this case, as I say, $99. Next year, we can maybe make it more, but this year, I'd like to suggest an amendment to make an extra $99.
We have a motion to increase the amount for Circle by $99 to $599. Is there a second? Eliza. Actually, Johnny, you can't. I apologize. We need somebody else to make the motion. Eliza makes the motion. We need a second for the motion. Karen. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to change the first line to, shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $599 to help support the work of Circle, formerly the Battered Women's Services Shelter. Any discussion on the motion to amend?
You said $999.
No, it's only $99. That's all he's allowed to increase it.
Yeah. Yeah. 99.
He's saying no discussion. Let's vote on the motion to amend the first line to be $599 to help support the work of Circle, formerly the Battered Women's Services and Shelter. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is amended. Any more discussion on the article for this? Article 10. Yes.
Hi, I'm Carla Francis, and I just want to say thanks for supporting the children's room. We're there every week. Super important to my family, my neighbors, so many of our friends, and so thank you.
Any more discussion on the values for Article 10? Seeing none, we will vote on the article as amended. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $599 to help support the work of Circle, formerly the Battered Women's Services and Shelter; $700 to help support the work of People's Health and Wellness Clinic; $300 to help support the work of Mosaic; $1,100 to help support the work of the Montpelier Senior Activity Center; $100 to help support the work of Green Up Vermont; $1,200 to help support Washington County Mental Health; $1,000 to help support the Children's Room. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Article 11. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following: $350 to help support Community Harvest of Central Vermont, and $775 to help support Green Mountain Transit. Is there a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following? $350 to help support Community Harvest of Central Vermont, $775 to help support Green Mountain Transit. Is there any discussion? This one only adds up to just over $1,000.
We'll do better on that next year, sorry.
It seemed like a great idea.
Communication.
Seeing no discussion. Oh, wait, sorry, Chris.
Another organization.
No. We can't vote on something that hasn't been warned, and so it would not be considered germane. So we can't add organizations that aren't on the warning.
Kevin Sweeney, I'm curious how it does when you get.
Tom, you want to answer that?
What's the process?
Here.
So one has to submit to the board, the select board, petition, and how many members? I think 5% of the voters need to sign it.
It's 4, right?
So it's 5% of the vote.
5%, so there's 175 maybe. But if one gets on, we'd leave them on, so they're not doing it each year. Right, so it's kind of a one-time thing.
Any more discussion on Article 11? Okay, shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the following? $350 to help support Community Harvest of Central Vermont, $775 to help support Green Mountain Transit. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Before we do Article 12, I'm just going to state that in the past I used to be able to get a division of the House, which made it so I could count the number of ayes and the number of nays, and that way we'd have in the record sort of a count of how many people were here. But there's not much contentious going on, so I haven't had a chance to do that, but I will want to make sure that it's clear that I count approximately 110 people here, which is probably double what we had the best year in the past 5 years. Article 12. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the sum of $4,999 to help support the work of the Mad River Valley Senior Citizens Incorporated? Is there a motion? Clarence. Second, John Schmelzer. It's been moved and seconded. Shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the sum of $4,999 to help support the work of the Mad River Valley Senior Citizens Incorporated? Discussion. Johnny.
John Stones. I'll turn around again. Apart from that, a representative from Article 7 was the water agreement. Years past, we had representatives from the different groups coming here to point out that money spent on looking after seniors, Meals on Wheels, other services, is money that we save. As long as we can keep people in their homes as long as we can, it's less money. So I recommend everyone to look at this particular Article 12 and Article 7 by Australian ballot, the same point. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another in the back.
Meals on Wheels driver, on the board, member of seniors. We're asking for the same amount of money as we did last year. And we continue to provide programs that we have in the past. We provided over 13,000 meals to the River Valley residents last year. We also free meal program, free ride program, falls under our umbrella. 1,500 lives last year, Mike. And as we heard a little earlier, we see the need for the free wheeling program possible to be increasing going forward with the loss of health in the valley. So people are going to be having to get rides further and maybe more frequently. So we We have some paid employees, but we've got at least 90 volunteers who are either taking meals to people, giving people rides, washing dishes. It's a very volunteer-driven group, so we have some resources.
Any more discussion? Corey?
Right, so, maybe you can answer this, Bill. I was just curious if the number for the Waterbury Senior Center is, a direct representation of the use of that center versus the Maverick Valley Senior Services, or is it just really what your boards decide to ask for? Like, are you asking for enough based on the use of that now?
We feel like what we asked for last year was an increase, which we asked for all 4 towns and all of them, I think, agree. So we'd rather not go out every year for that type of thing. As far as Waterbury, I was in contact with them last year. They provide meals for a certain portion of the Moretown residents that they're closer to them than they matter now. It seemed, from my perspective, it seemed pretty fair as far as how it's broken out.
Any more discussion on Article 12, the Mad River Valley Senior Citizens? Okay, shall the voters of the town of Moretown appropriate the sum of $4,999 to help support the work of the Mad River Valley Senior Citizens Incorporated? All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. That's most of the business we have. Tom, is there anything else that we want to go over while we're here? Donnie has something. You have to use the microphone, Donnie.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming. Oh, I need that.
It's like way more sauce.
Well, I'll come over there. So, yeah, thank you everybody for coming. This is a first steps, and we'll take some feedback, obviously, from everybody for next year. There's a couple of us today. There's a couple of things we'd like to just fill people in on. So I won't be the one. I am known for at select board meetings talking a lot, so I'll try not to do that tonight. Clark is going to talk to us for a minute about the wastewater study that we did for the village. And Callie's going to give us a little update about the sidewalks. And I was just going to quickly tell you about the Historical Society, which is back there. And once the spring comes and a schedule gets established, I encourage everybody here to go to the new history, not new, but the history building, which has been fixed up really amazingly. And there's some great stuff back there to check out before you leave. Oh, and the Friends of the Library are back there. Also, over there, there's a flyer to take. There's a shared use path being considered in the valley that's going to run from Warren through Moretown to Middlesex. It's a study it's in progress. The next public meeting is on March 26th at the Waitsfield School. So there's a flyer over there. There's also some information about the education packet that Governor Scott put out that some people should grab to read about some points of view about that, to educate yourself on that. That's on the table over there as well. I also wanted to put out a little small plea for everyone in our town to think about with mud season coming. This is something that I think people, if they thought about the condition of our roads and how hard our crew works, that if you maybe just said, I don't need to order all this stuff from all over the place, Amazon or whatever, maybe just cut down for a month. It would really help the condition of our roads, as well as maybe getting your fuel delivered before mud season really kicks in. Because as you know, you've seen the team out there at 2 a.m. trying to keep your roads passable. So just something to keep in mind. Might be a good thing. Could even save you some money maybe in the long run. I always thank the road crew, for sure. Absolutely. Just to throw it out there, we were trying to have a little bit of a community service fair here this evening. It might have gotten to be a lot too many things on the plate for this year, but please consider there's lots of ways you can get involved in the community. There's the rec committee, there's the planning commission, there's the DRB, there's even the select board, you know, that you could run for. And in that, and along those lines, please come to some select board meetings and see what it's like, so that maybe someday you might consider being on the select board. And then let's see, last but not least, before I turn it over to someone else, there's some of the drawings for what we're hoping to do for revitalizing the town hall. It's been a work in progress since about 2020. It's ongoing. We're about to finish the construction documents, and which we'll then get an estimate from a construction manager that we have helping us. This last phase of the project has all been done by a capital campaign, so hasn't been anything the town has had to pay for. But eventually, once we get that sort of cost of what the project will be to do, and we look to the forward to what kind of grants we can get, then we'll be presenting to the town, you know, how we might go about this project. But please take a quick look at the drawings. As you know, there's a potluck, so you can maybe wander back and look at the drawings. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. So now I'll turn the mic over to Mike. Oh yeah, Town Forest. Thank you, everybody.
You didn't mention me as $5 now. What? No, you didn't say that. Hi, I'm Michael Brown. I'm a select board member, and I was on the town forest committee with a bunch of other people who are in here tonight. So we finished updating the town forest management plan last year, and has been reviewed and accepted by the Vermont Land Trust, who holds the easement, and by the state of Vermont, who holds another easement on it. And for those of you who aren't familiar, I'm talking about most of the land behind the school, the back playground, and then a fair share of the hiking trails that go over to South Hill, and then onto some private property. We tried to encapsulate a lot of the management with the school and the rec committee and other uses that are ongoing on the property into kind of one place from the last plan that just needed to be updated per the easement. I think Steve was involved in the last one. Hey, Steve. And so I would encourage anyone who uses a property, if you have kids in the school, they're using it every day almost for eco classrooms or the sledding hill or the back playground, to take a look at the management plan. You can find it on the website. If you don't want to do that, you can get in touch with me, find me, and I can just email it to you directly. There is some active harvesting plan for the property, technically scheduled for 2025 or 2026. Chris and I have been talking about when we're actually going to try to get that going. That work is really focused off of South Hill, and not down into the outdoor classrooms and everything. Is there anything else you can think I'm missing for it?
The procedures and chair of the rec committee. So the rec committee has a 10-year plan assigned, and nothing in 10 years, but the rec committee sort of has its eye on it. So if you have any questions about it, you can also come to any member on the rec. And we're also expanding the safety zone around the classrooms. So we're going to have some new signs up to help better protect accessible hunting up there and safety of children.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, Susan.
Just talk a little bit about action planning, what that is exactly, that's going to be helping
Yeah, and so if you're familiar with the property, some of the woods that are close to South Hill are old wood lumber plantations, softwood plantations. One of them is around a 2-acre Norway spruce plantation. That is slated in the plan to be patch cut, so essentially be a 2-acre clear cut. The point of that is to try to remove this mature non-native species that offers very little wildlife habitat and diversity. If you go take a walk up there and look and see what's in the understory, there's almost nothing. And so with the idea with that it's going to naturally regenerate to northern hardwoods and maybe some softwoods and offer neotropical songbird habitat, as well as early successional habitat for a variety of other species. And then beyond that is thinning and then some uneven age management that's tailored to deer yard management per the easement with the state of Vermont. And I think, and you were at the meeting last year, Susan, and we've talked with Chris. So before we do any management, the plan's in place and signed, but we are going to be having workshops. The whole plan is to have like a pre-harvest workshop during harvest, or not necessarily workshop, a walk, and then a post-harvest, right? And that will be put out on Front Porch Forum, and then probably some other like forestry organizations if you're involved with those. So those will have like heavy public output on them to try to get people to come, so that people in the town know what's going on and don't just show up and see their forest changed and wonder why we ruined it. So happy to answer any other questions without getting too far into the weeds about all that. A couple of hands. I'll get to you guys first, but yeah, in the back, Doug. Yeah, the town does own the parking lot. So the question was if the town owns the parking lot. I'm assuming you're referring between the school and the town office. Yeah, so this, and Kate can kick in if she wants. And we talked about this at the pre-town meeting. So the school district owns the school and essentially a very small footprint around the school. Based on the Mylars, the town owns the parking lot, the town clerk's office, I think the playground, the back playground, I think even the sledding hill, and then beyond. So, probably like 99%, literally everything except for the school and the school footprint is owned by the town. If that. I could not answer that. That wasn't part of the scope of the forest management plan update. Someone else maybe could, if we don't want to. I don't know.
Doug, could you repeat that question?
So, if you are successful
So yes, they have paid roughly $200,000 on the parking lot. There isn't any debt left on the parking lot.
And there's Susan, you had your hand up, and so Susan, and then the woman behind you after that, if that works.
I noticed over the there was some mention of a parking lot being established down at the bottom of our road or South Hill, and I'm wondering if that's still something that's being considered.
I don't think it's been discussed really since then because we haven't done anything. Like we talked about, it was in the plan, right? Because we're going to have to upgrade a landing area right there for the harvest, and so the thought was that then that upgraded area could potentially be used as a permanent parking lot for access for other people. But there's really nothing set in stone. Chris can speak to this too. I think that was just something we put in there as a possibility, right? And I think that's what I said to you at that select board meeting about a year ago. But it's not set in stone. It could also get blocked off to block that access. But I think it's at least a possibility that that would become a small parking lot to make it easier for people to access the town forest. But it's not even set in stone in the plan. So, it's set in stone essentially that, or plan that we would improve that area as a landing with a possibility of it being a parking lot and nothing really beyond that at this time. I would think so, because it's not outlined in the plan, right, that it's going to be a parking lot. And so I think Chris can maybe step in, but I think anything like that might go through the rec committee and have a bunch of public input, but I'll turn it over to Chris.
My understanding, I think one of the reasons why we put in there is to create visibility of future options. And right now, the parking that's up there is on private land, and it hasn't, to my understanding, been turned over. It seems to be enough capacity. So I haven't heard anybody fighting for parking spaces, but should we lose access to that public land right across the street, we want to have backup option. They are interested in all the lines of free backup.
I can agree on two questions. Is the patch cutting in this whole project subject to voter approval? And when will that happen? You said it's subject to 2025 and 2026. And the question is, how long will the patch cutting last? And would you close the Moretown Trail up that way, or the whole Moretown Trail, while it's being patch cutted?
Someone else can, I'm not sure if it's subject to voter approval. We sought a lot of public input, or I think as much as we reasonably could for the management plan. And I think the two of you were the only people that showed up to the meeting. Everyone else that showed up was either a school administrator or part of the town committee, the forest committee. But Chris, yeah, I don't know if you got.
I do think all of the butters all did get
Right.
email.
Yeah.
And there was not a lot of participation beyond it. A few people showed up in that meeting. So at this point, that's part of the plan, and that, as I understand it, would be happening just depending on when we have availability and winter like this.
Right. I think there was maybe one other person that responded to the letter, and they just couldn't get the plan off the website, so I forwarded it to them directly. But yeah, I think at this point, the plan is it was a 2-year process, and we took a long break in the winter, but it's pretty well thought out and pretty moderate. And it is reviewed and approved by the state of Vermont and by Vermont Land Trust. But like I said, we are planning on having, whenever it does move forward, we are planning on having more public output about it, right? So that we can at least try to explain what we're doing, and whether someone agrees or disagrees with that, right? That's fine. We can respectfully do either of those, but so hopefully that answers your question.
The question was on the closing the trail.
Oh, and yeah, the closing the trails, I think, sorry to answer the second half of your question, yes, I think the trails would be closed with signage and maybe some ribbon, and that would probably be the extent of it. We can't stop people from going down ribbon or ignoring a sign. And as long as it would take, I think we talked about in the meeting probably like a month or two for all the work. Ideally, from A&R's perspective, it would happen in the summertime because of the deer yard easement. So, does that answer all the? Okay, thanks. Yes. Right. Right. Yeah. No, we haven't moved forward from the management plan, and since it is a municipal job, I believe it has to go out to bid to 3 different contractors, or we have to get at least bids from 3 different contractors, and then the town could then decide who they wanted to pick from that. Right, yeah, that's not our intention at all. I think in most of the town bids, and Tom can correct me, I think there's a clause that the town can reject any and all bids, probably for any reason. And so if we got a bid that was highest, we would probably only put it out to bid to companies that we wanted to work with, that had a reputable, a good reputation from an ethical and legal and environmental standpoint. And then out of those companies we got bids from, we could then choose who we wanted to, not just based on the price of their bid, but on other criteria as well.
Just to add something like that, we're fortunate. Mike is actually a forester, so we have some expertise on the town side, looking out for the town. So I think that's something that we should certainly embrace.
Yeah, and just, in a somewhat humorous note, but I'm really not trying to plan a harvest that's going to fill my inbox and voicemail box with complaints. So I really want to, I think if you haven't read the plan, you should take the time to leaf through the plan, and then feel free to reach out to me with questions or comments. I'm happy to answer any of them in as timely a manner as I can. But yeah, we're really not trying to do anything that's going to upset a bunch of people in the town and quote unquote ruin our beautiful town forest. That's not our intention at all. So.
Thank you, Mike. Now we have, I think, Callie. We have a couple sidewalk projects that she wants to bring us up to date.
Okay, I'm just going to stand right here. I'm Callie. I'm the vice chair of the select board. So one of the projects that we are working on is the town hall sidewalk that goes on the opposite side of the road. Right now, Sherilyn has applied for a grant to cover the gap cost in that due to cost increasing, different parts of the project changing. They have done some work to save some of the trees along that side of the sidewalk. I think there's only one that's going to be removed at this point. So we have applied for that grant. We're just waiting to hear back from that. The other sidewalk project is the Waterbury side. So basically sending the sidewalk up through toward Gallagher Acres for safety. There has been a scoping study done on that sidewalk, and we are waiting to hear back from the grant for the first proposal. If we do not get the grant for the Moretown sidewalk in the village, then we will be applying for another grant that's available a little bit later to cover the gap for that, and then holding off on the Waterbury side.
Good. So I think we have one more person. Clark wanted to bring us up to date that we had been working on the wastewater system for the town, and he has some finality with that.
We do have finality with that. It's for the village, as I think most of you know. The work is essentially ended for the committee. At this point, we're still waiting from Otter Creek Consulting to come in with a 90% report about the village wastewater system proposal, and a 90% report would not include a lot of design. It would share with us various options, and primarily at this point, the uncertainty with funding that we're experiencing right now may have influenced a project if something had gone forward within the village. So in some ways, I'm glad that the committee and the town is not necessarily having to work through that, but we are going to have a very detailed document that will allow us at some point perhaps to move forward on a village wastewater system. And essentially, we were unable to find a location for disposal that would cover the businesses and the residences in the village. So that is ongoing. Things may change in terms of property availability, and so that is something that the groups within the town, the select board, particular individuals may keep their eye on. If someone happens to come forward with some property that they're interested in having the town purchase that may work for a disposal site, that would be great. I'd like to thank Ray Washburn, Dave Westerman, Deb Carroll, Jack Byrne, and Jay Pilliot for helping out on the committee. We put in a lot of time over the course of about 2.5 years. The money that the town received was a 0% loan, so the town is not putting in any of its own funds that have gone towards this particular preliminary engineering report. So that will exist. Within the town, it will be a report that we can use and refer to as time goes forward.
And at the risk of sort of overstepping the village, there are some discussions and some thoughts and some work being done with folks in, if you will, North Moretown, which at some point perhaps there may be a project that could bring wastewater across the river, under the river, over the river, to help that part of Moretown, which to a certain extent is the most highly commercial part of our town, and perhaps could have significant opportunities for expansion of businesses and hopefully residences as well. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments that people may have at this point. I could go into a lot more detail, but I think at this point, I think folks are probably pretty aware of how that project has flowed through at this point, but happy to try to answer any questions or comment if folks have any concerns.
Just Steve Sharp. My question is North Moretown, so I know what you're talking about there. It's, there's no fire.
Right. Yeah. The Route 2 and 100 intersection. Right.
Right. Are there actual conversations happening with Waterbury about the wastewater? Because is there water? Is there public water supply from Waterbury there, but there's no wastewater?
Yeah, at this point there's a public water supply that I'm pretty sure comes all the way up as far. It goes up to Crossett Brook Middle School. I think it actually continues up to the Duxbury. And so I hope I didn't throw Dave a bone that he wasn't ready to nod at this point, but he's worked a little bit more on that those ideas than I have. So he's here to comment on that.
Yeah, and actually, if you live in North Moretown in particular, it'd be great to get you involved. So I'm Dave Stapleton, the chair of the Planning Commission, and we're actually talking to Duxbury as well as Waterbury. Waterbury is more than willing to bring it, to sell wastewater to people in North Moretown and businesses in North Moretown, but we have to figure out how to get it across there and finance it. But what we're doing right now, and we're talking with the Regional Planning Commission about it as well, is to potentially apply for a neighborhood development area that would encompass what is currently the Farrar, I believe it is, utility district, which is everybody who's getting water from Waterbury currently. And that would really be a game changer in terms of availability of funds, but also in terms of funding for changing transportation corridor up there. We've talked about putting a traffic circle in instead of the light that's there now, and which we could do because we'd be taking away a septic system that's now there and in the way. So there's lots going on there, and if anybody's interested in it, I'll be hanging around and happy to tell you more.
Are there any other questions or comments people want to have? We used to have an article called Other Business, and that's essentially what we're involved in right now. Any other comments or questions that people would like to make? Questions for the select board, questions for the other standing boards and committees or whatever they are in the town? So I'm going to give you guys a really short story. A friend of mine, one of my best friends, went to grad school in Atlanta, Georgia, Georgia Tech, got a master's in public administration, and it was in class one day, and the instructor said, "How many people in the county do you think know what's going on in the budget, in the county budget? How do it's like almost nothing." And somebody in the back of the room raised their hand and said, "But it's all in the town report." And the instructor said, "Well, where are you from?" And he said, "I'm from Plymouth, New Hampshire." And he goes, "Oh, well, you're from New England." Well, we have a really special thing here, guys. I really appreciate everybody showing up, and we know what's going on. This is where we get our trust in our government because we're all part of the government. Given that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Linda Hazard? Sorry, Clarence, you want to add something?
I would like to say that most people don't know Don Wessler, but he's back to the board for the second time. He served before, so he's been through this.
Don Wexler has put a lot of time into this. Yes. We have a motion to adjourn from Linda. Is there a second? Eliza? All in favor of adjourning, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Don't forget to go vote across the parking lot, and I think there might be food available in the multi-purpose room, the cafeteria, 554. Write that down, 554.